There are places that don't exist on the map, not because they're too small, but because they don't want to be found. Dunridge is a small village nestled in the middle of a pine forest in Pennsylvania, USA. No one but the locals remembers its name, and no one visits by accident. The paths leading into the village are winding, mossy, and seemingly deliberately hidden in the darkness. The village has fewer than 200 people, mostly farmers, blacksmiths, old people, and children. The internet is weak, the phone signal is spotty, and every winter is so bitterly cold that it feels like your bones are frozen. In the center of the village is a place called the Dunridge Medical Center, a small building painted pale gray with a weathered sign. There is no resident doctor, just an old nurse and a cleaning lady named Vivian Grace. Vivian is something different. People often say, in a backward place like this, anything too beautiful is not safe. And Vivian is so beautiful. Her long black hair always falls down to her shoulders. Her face is as white as a porcelain doll. Her eyes are deep blue. Her lips are red. She never wears makeup, but still shines like the moonlight. Even though she is almost 40, people still whisper that she has not changed at all in the past 20 years. No one is close to Vivian. She lives alone in a small wooden house deep in the forest. No neighbors, no relatives, no friends. She works hard, doesn't talk much, and always comes home on time, before the sun sets. Every time someone asks, "Is Vivian sad living alone?" she just smiles, her eyes cold as ice and snow in spring. I am never lonely. The town passed by day in silence, until blood began to flow. At first, a few animals were killed. A dog was hung from a tree, blood dripping onto the snow. A cat went missing, and a few days later its body was found in the bushes, its organs sucked out. But then, it was the children's turn. The people of Dunridge are not fond of strange things. They believe in God, in the old teachings, in the cross hanging on the main door. They are not easily fascinated by beauty, especially timeless beauty. Vivian Grace has worked at the medical station for nearly 15 years. Strangely enough, she has not changed even a little wrinkle. The old nurse Carol, the only one who has worked longer than Vivian, once whispered, "I remember very clearly the first time Vivian came here. I thought she was in her 20s, but now I am almost 70 and she is still the same. Not a wrinkle. No need for skincare products, not a trace of time." Some say Vivian uses expensive cosmetics. Some say she is a vegetarian, meditates, but no one really sees what she eats. Every lunch, while the other staff eats bread or soup in the break room, Vivian sits quietly in a corner, not a bite of food. She only drinks water, the dark red liquid in her own thermos. One Friday night, a young man named Brandon, the town delivery man, decided to follow Vivian after work. The young man had long been interested in the mysterious beauty. Maybe she has a lover somewhere in the woods. Who knows? Brandon sneered as he told his friends. He followed her from the medical station, through the trail leading into the dense forest. But once he reached the edge of the forest, he never looked back. The next morning, the police were called. Brandon's body was not found. Only the abandoned motorbike and a long drag mark on the ground from the trail leading into the forest, dragged dozens of meters and then disappeared as if swallowed. Suspicions began to arise, but no one dared to confront Vivian directly. Only the children in the village whispered to each other in frightened voices. "I saw Vivian standing outside the cemetery at 2 a.m. Yesterday I saw a red light from her house, like a candle, but my grandmother said it was a demon fire. There was a baby crying coming from the woods, but no one could find her." As for Vivian, she still went to work regularly. Still beautiful, fair, gentle, and every time someone died, her lips became redder. That night, old nurse Carol called to quit. Her voice trembled as if she were having a cold. "I can't be near her anymore. There's something wrong. I heard a scream in the barn in the middle of the night. I saw blood under the tool room door." 3 days later, Carol was found dead in the bathtub, her wrists cut deep to the tendons, blood drawing circles on the wall. The police said it was suicide, but one strange thing made everyone silent. Her eyes were gouged out, no pupils. From then on, the Dunridge medical station belonged to Vivian alone. She walked around the building, soft and silent like a ghost. The hallway lights flickered every time she walked by. The blood test bottles in the warehouse were depleted even though no one used them. The security cameras kept breaking as if someone didn't want to be recorded. When another child died, a 9-year-old girl named Sarah, who had gone missing for just one night, people started praying more. They locked the doors early, put crosses on the windows, and forbade children from going out after 5 p.m. But every time they heard news of someone dying, people still saw Vivian, smiling slightly as if she had just been given new life. Since the death of little Sarah, a 9-year-old girl who was found lying in the middle of a field, her body convulsing, her face pale, and her blood drained. The people of Dunridge have not lived as they used to. They do not talk or laugh, do not gather in church, do not let their children go to school. All the windows are closed, Bible papers pasted on the wooden frames. All the doors are locked with locks and nails. And when dusk falls, the whole village seems dead. In the cold room of the medical station, Vivian Grace still works as usual. Every night, she mops the floors, disinfects the operating tables, and meticulously changes the hospital bed sheets as if the place were still operating. But no one comes. The medical station has become her domain. One night, the lights in the entire medical area suddenly go out. Security cameras in the area record a scream, like a child's voice. When the police arrived, they found only long, winding blood trails that stretched all the way to the back of the medical station, and then disappeared right in front of Vivian's house. 2 days later, the next child disappeared. His name was Tyler, 6 years old, the only son of Mr. Jake, the village blacksmith. Tyler was found hanging upside down from an old pine tree nearly 4 meters above the ground. His body was ashen like a dried corpse. His skin was purple, his lips were purple, his eyes were wide open and unblinking as if he had just seen something terrible. But what was even more horrifying was that the boy's mouth was sewn shut with human hair. In an emergency village meeting, the oldest priest in town, Pastor Daniel, said in a trembling voice, "This is no longer a human matter. This is something older than sin, an ancient evil that lives among us." For the first time, the villagers dared to say Vivian's name, and they decided to follow her. That evening, from far away in the deep forest, a group of 3 young men holding flashlights and infrared cameras quietly followed Vivian's footsteps. She left the medical station as usual at 7 p.m. wearing a hood, holding a small bag, and walked deep into the forest trail leading to the National Highway 12 kilometers from the village. But they could not believe their eyes. When the clock struck 8 o'clock, Vivian began to transform. Blood dripped onto the ground. Her arms grew long, her claws were black and sharp, her eyes glowed crimson. Her mouth was split open, her teeth no longer human but like those of a wild beast born from hell. One of the 3 men, Eric, turned and ran, but before he could go 10 meters, his neck was torn from his body by something. His head rolled on dry leaves, blood spurting out like a fountain. The other 2 disappeared forever. Only the camera was found the next morning. The police did not release the tape, but it is said that there was a clip in it that showed Vivian drinking blood from a child's body. Blood dripped down her mouth, thick red like syrup, her eyes closed. Her face was so happy it was terrifying, as if she was enjoying fine wine. Everything from here went beyond reason. Blood stains were spilled on the walls of houses, although no one was injured. People heard children knocking on the door in the middle of the night, but when they opened it, they only saw a dark shadow passing by. An old woman who was seriously ill prayed all night and was hanged in the church the next morning, and no one heard a sound. Father Daniel, in a final sermon before burning himself in the crypt, left behind the following words: "Vivian is not human. She is the last living sacrifice of an ancient bloodline that was burned alive in Europe. The blood of children is what sustains her life, and the blood of children who have not yet chosen their gender is clearly the most precious. Where the horror is no longer limited to the village of Dunridge, but spreads to the neighboring city 12 km away, where Vivian turns into a demon every night. When the city sleeps, there is something that never dreams, but only hungers. During the day, the city of New Ellison, 12 km from the village of Dunridge, is a bustling place. Heavy traffic, high-rise buildings, schools, hospitals. But at night, especially between 1 a.m. and 3 a.m., there is a strange phenomenon that lasts for nearly 6 months that no one can explain. People die, not from accidents or diseases, but from being drained of blood like desiccated corpses. A total of 13 people died within 3 months, all of them children and teenagers between the ages of 5 and 14. Their bodies were found in vacant lots, under bridges, even in the Central Park. New Ellison authorities offered many theories: serial killers, drug addicts, human traffickers. But there was one thing they dared not announce publicly. Not a drop of blood remained in the bodies. Hearts, livers, internal organs intact. No knife marks, as if the blood had evaporated into the air, or had been sucked out by something inhuman. One night, a public camera captured a strange image. A tall, long-haired woman in a white dress, standing motionless in an empty intersection at 2 a.m. Her face was covered by hair, but as a car passed by, the lights flashed and, in a single frame, her eyes reflected a red glow like hellfire. The footage then went haywire and disappeared. The next day, a 10-year-old girl named Madison went missing. In the police report, bare, bloody footprints were found on the 6th-floor steps of Madison's apartment building, even though the front door was locked from the inside. On the bedroom wall, there was a bloody scrawled line in ancient Latin: Vita perpetua pro pretio innocentiae, eternal life at the price of innocence. On the other side of the city, Vivian Grace returned every morning before dawn, ragged and bloody, as if she had just crawled out of a massacre. She changed her clothes, showered, walked into the medical station as if nothing had happened, and continued working. But more and more people saw strange changes in her appearance. Her face was shiny like a porcelain doll, but her eyes always sparkled with red. Her hair was silky and longer every day, falling down her back like a veil. And the voice, deeper, colder, as if coming from a throat that no longer had real vocal cords. Among the missing children was a child who survived. His name was Lucas, 8 years old. He had been reported missing for 2 days in New Ellison, then returned home in a dirty, hungry state. The boy did not speak a word for 4 days, just drawing continuously on paper. The first drawing was of a woman with long hair, red eyes, a mouth full of blood sucking the blood of a young boy. The second was of the woman transformed into a winged, fanged monster, flying across the rooftops. The boy Lucas uttered only one sentence on Thursday night before scratching his face in a panic. "She didn't eat me because I was already dead. I pretended to be dead." One night, the church burned down for unknown reasons. Pastor Daniel was found lying in the ashes, holding a half-burned Bible in his hand and chanting an exorcism prayer. But Vivian did not die. She was never hurt, never sick, never afraid of the cross. But everything changed when a brown-haired girl with cold eyes moved to the village to live with her old aunt in an old wooden house near the edge of the forest. Her name was Emily. She was 11 years old. But no one knew. Emily was not an ordinary child, and the blood bond between her and Vivian was about to be stretched to the breaking point. Emily, an 11-year-old girl, moved to Dunridge village just as the nightmare reached its peak. She lived with her Aunt Ellen, an elderly paralyzed woman who lived near the edge of the northern forest. Since Emily arrived, people noticed something strange. The wild cats around the village did not dare to go near the house. Emily was quiet, always carrying an old dark red leather notebook, her brown eyes looking up at everything like an outsider. Only, sometimes she spoke words that no one understood, like a dead ancient language. At night, people even saw a faint blue light coming from the window of the attic room, along with a whispering sound like chanting. In the basement of her Aunt Ellen's house, Emily found a scroll of human skin map drawn with dried blood and bone ash. That map led to the back of the medical station, where a stone cellar was sealed over 70 years ago. According to the records of Aunt Ellen, the last member of a lost exorcism society, that place was the place where a woman suspected of being a witch who sucked children's blood was executed in 1876. The woman's name was Viviane Delacroix. Emily was not surprised. She knew the name. She knew it very well, because it was carved on a broken stone tablet in the cemetery of her bloodline's ancestors. Viviane was Emily's first ancestor, a bloodline condemned as a descendant of the Lamia demons, female spirits who sucked blood and devoured the souls of children to prolong their lives. On a full moon night in June, Emily quietly followed the old blood trail into the land behind the medical station. There, she used a rusty knife to cut her finger, dripping blood onto the dry ground. And the ground cracked. An ancient stone door opened, and a cold, pungent smell rose up like the cold air from hell. Underground, she discovered an altar of children's bones, on which was a relief of a creature with a human body, bat wings, and bottomless, hollow eyes. Under the altar were the words, "Blood is life, bones are contracts, children are the gateway." And in the middle was a small glass jar containing fresh blood that had not yet coagulated. Emily opened the lid and smelled it. This smell was her own smell. That night, Emily did not sleep. She stood in front of the mirror, drew a circle of blood on her neck, and began to recite the ancient incantation. Per ignem, per sindien, sanguinem, per mandam, per vocem ave me, revelere. Through fire, through blood, through the call of the ancestors come forth. And she saw. In the mirror, the image of Vivian Grace appeared, but not human. Vivian was a dark red entity, her skin bare, her hair long as roots, her arms dragging with claws, her eyes empty as black holes. She was no longer a person, but a demon of blood. Vivian smiled at Emily in the mirror, blood dripping from the corner of her mouth to the floor, drop by drop. "My dear niece, you finally opened your eyes." Emily fell to the floor, gasping for breath, her eyes glowing red like burning coals. She began to hear voices in her head, the cries of hundreds of children, the call of her ancestors, and a final voice, as clear as someone standing right next to her ear. "Your bloodline is not to destroy demons, but to continue them." The next morning, Vivian Grace was nowhere to be found at the infirmary, but a huge trail of blood spread from the door to the edge of the village, forming a spiral. A week after Vivian disappeared from the infirmary, Dunridge entered a moonless night. The sky was pitch black and the wind had picked up since midnight, as if the forest were groaning. At the end of the dirt road leading to the old cemetery, a cocoon of blood had opened. From it, Vivian emerged, no longer human. She was now something between a demon and a god, completely naked, her skin red and purple, her eyes glowing like burnt ash, her nails long and curved like scythes. Behind her back were 2 wings of torn flesh, flapping as she moved. She whispered, the echo from her throat like 100 voices at once. "I have returned, and the blood sings its song again." While the villagers panicked, trying to escape, Emily remained calm. She knew this would happen. Ever since she read Aunt Ellen's Blood and Bone book, a handwritten book made of human ashes and dried blood, she knew the truth. She was no ordinary child. She was born from a Lamia summoning ritual, using her biological mother's body as a host. Emily was the word of resurrection, the chosen embodiment to carry the demon blood to continue, or end it. At 3:33 a.m., the sacred hour of the underworld, Emily went down to the stone cellar behind the medical station, where she had found the bone altar. She drew a summoning circle with her own blood, and in the center placed a black bronze mirror engraved with the symbol of an upside-down eye. This was the ritual to summon the spirits of her ancestors to judge. The wind rose. The door shook violently. The sound of a child crying echoed from the cliff. And then, Vivian appeared on the opposite side of the circle. "What are you going to do? I won't let you continue." "Don't lie to yourself. Your blood flows through me. I feel it every night, every time my heart beats faster at the smell of children's flesh. I am a human. I will not become a monster. I am a monster. I just haven't accepted it yet." Vivian stepped into the circle but was stopped, her flesh burning with Emily's blood. She screamed, the sound of a slaughtered buffalo echoing throughout the stone cellar. Emily pulled out her ancestral knife and stabbed it in the middle of the circle. She recited, "I do not belong to you. Old blood, return to your hell." The ground shook. A portal opened beneath Vivian's feet, the blood pit, where demonic souls were imprisoned. But Vivian did not go easily. She rushed forward, pulling Emily with her, her nails digging into her hands. Blood splattered. They both fell into a fiery red vortex somewhere between life and death. In the vision of blood, Emily saw her biological mother, a young woman with tears in her eyes, holding the newborn Emily in her arms, standing before the altar. Next to her mother was Vivian as a human, smiling contentedly. "I'm sorry. Emily, Mom had no choice." The scene disappeared, blood flowed back, Vivian's arms tightened. Emily weakened, but her heart still beat. Because she was not exactly a demon, she had a choice. Emily used her last bit of strength, pulled out the knife made of her ancestors' bones, stabbed herself straight into the chest. Blood sprayed straight into Vivian's face. Vivian screamed, her body burning not because of the fire, but because of the blood of her own lineage betraying her. She turned to ash. The vortex closed. Everything went black. Emily was found lying unconscious in the woods, her shirt covered in dried blood, her hand still clutching the broken knife, and Vivian had completely disappeared. The medical station was abandoned. People gradually returned to normal life, although no one really forgot. Emily continued to live, talking less, smiling less, but every night she wrote in the red book. No one knew the content, and sometimes people still saw her eyes glistening with blood when watching children playing in the afternoon sun. But no one knew that she was trying every day to fight the demon inside her. The first night, Emily dreamed that she was walking in a dark forest, holding a knife in her hand, with a little girl crying in front of her. When she bent down to comfort her, the face of the little girl was Emily's as a child, but her eyes were red with blood. The second night, she stood in the middle of a sacrificial table, surrounded by hundreds of faces of ancestors, demonized beings chanting her name. "Emily, the blood must continue. Becoming us. Don't betray the blood." Not only in her dreams, but also during the day, the hallucinations appeared. When she passed by a mirror, Emily saw herself smirking even though she wasn't smiling. When she walked past her old school, she heard children whispering, "Come and get us, Mom." Once, when she cut her hand in the kitchen, the blood that flowed out wasn't red, but was black as plastic, and it hissed. Emily decided not to run away anymore. She placed a spirit-blocking charm, carved a symbol on the wall, lit a blood candle, and sat in the center of the spirit circle. She called out to her own demonized ancestors. One night, the room was lit up and screams echoed throughout the house. "You are ours. You cannot give up your blood. If you do not follow, your soul will be torn to pieces." But Emily did not bow. She pulled out the ancestral bone knife, cut a deep line on her hand. Blood fell and shouted, "I do not deny my blood, but I will own it." A red light flared up. The ancestors were burned away. The room became dark again. Emily survived, and stronger. After the final battle in the spirit, Emily disappeared from Dunridge village. No one knew where she went. Only an empty house, a locked diary, A year later, in a small town called Ash Hollow, a young woman was found renting a cheap apartment working in an old mental hospital. Her name was Emily. She was quiet. Her eyes were always staring into the darkness at the end of the hallway. It was rumored that every time a patient screamed about seeing a demon in the mirror, the next morning that patient was transferred to a new room and never screamed again. As for Emily, she still kept the red book, and on her hand a scar in the shape of a blood star still bled on full moon nights. Emily was not an angel. She was a guardian in the darkness, the only one who could fight demons because her blood was theirs.